Welcome to Vsb News Online for Friday, May the 22nd. I'm Charles Webb. A 50-year-old Southampton man is fighting for his life in the ICU of the King Edward Hospital following an accident during the morning rush hour involving his motorcycle and a truck. Later, the ambulance taking him there collided with the rider of an auxiliary cycle. Police media spokesman Dwayne Keynes provides us with the details and a warning.
A few minutes after 8, police and first responders attended an incident that took place on Middle Road in Southampton. Now that's right outside of Industrial Park. It appears that a man traveling west on a cycle collided with a truck that was exiting the Industrial Park. This resulted in the ambulance, as per usual, coming to the scene and taking that man to King Edward Memorial Hospital. However, when the ambulance was traveling back east, it collided in the area of Lighthouse Hill with a auxiliary cycle. As a result, a man was taken to the hospital with injuries to his leg. Now that man's injuries do not appear to be life-threatening. This collision underscores the importance, particularly in the holiday weekend, for people to slow down on the roads. We have to consider, as we've said now, it is a national health crisis with the individuals that are dying on our roads, and their quality of lives have been changed as a result of road traffic collisions and the cost to us all, healthcare costs and insurance costs. This, unfortunately, is a time where we have several serious collisions during this weekend, and historically in the past we've had one or two people die on our roads. We don't want any family to have to endure the pain of losing someone during this festive time where we should be celebrating. Again, take your time on the roads and plan ahead of time. Use wise judgment. And of course, if you drink, do not drive.
Finance Minister E.T. Bob Richards is happy with the independent report on the OBA's plan to redevelop the airport prepared by Deloitte at the request of both the Bermuda and the British governments. As for the flaws it found in the procurement system, the minister said they had been anticipated and would be corrected.
I'm not concerned. They've pointed out certain so-called gaps, things that they would have liked to have seen addressed in the way we went about it. I think some of them were gaps because we had considered them, but we hadn't written long memoranda about it. Things weren't in writing. End of the day, I think it's understood that what we're doing is in the best interest of Bermuda, and that we have agreed to endeavor to fill those gaps going forward. We're still at a fairly early stage in this process. I just keep saying this. People think that, it's like building a warehouse. It would be if we had the money. But because we're having to finance this from future revenues, it just is much more complicated, much more time consuming. And so we're still in the fairly early stages of this. And as we go forward, so some of the gaps they found because we're in the early stage. We have told Her Majesty's government that we're committed to filling those gaps going forward.
You made a very good point in your speech, asking questions, that any investor looking at the history of the airport over the last 10 years would have no interest in investment.
That's right. We've had a declining traffic pattern for, I would say, 20 years. And, the government of Bermuda has to make the case that we have arrested that decline and changed the trend. And so they want to know how we're going to do that.
Opposition leader Mark Bean, fresh from heading the PLP's delegation to London, brought up the subject of Deloitte's report when describing the success of the trip.
Absolutely, it was worth the trip. It was very productive in our minds. We had the opportunity to express our concerns with the Foreign Commonwealth Office and also have a robust discussion with the Commonwealth Parliamentary Association. Certainly, we are hoping that the FCO would take a stance, in spite of this Deloitte and Touche financial appraisal, take a stance that promotes the idea of openness and transparency. And most importantly, adhere to Her Majesty's Treasurer's Green Book. which, as in the statement by the minister today, speaks of it having the highest standards for procurement. So we agree, and we will hope that that process will be adhered to going forward in regards to the airport.
These gaps that they want filled, could that unwind some of the things that have been done so far?
Absolutely. There are substantial gaps. We asked the minister to say publicly what he identified the gaps as being, and he responded, read the report. Okay, that's fine. But those gaps obviously come about as a result of putting the cart before the horse. Many of these gaps, we will posit, are eliminated, or the risk associated with these gaps are eliminated through an open tendering process. And so again, it seems to be we got it backwards, and as a result, the FCO and the OBA are doing their best in an attempt to salvage this project and give it an air of respectability when nothing can be closer to the truth.
The move to install a $1 million CCTV system across the island is nearing completion, as Premier and Minister of National Security Michael Dunkley discovered when he toured the ComOps building at Prospect this week.
Your audience will be aware that we had a very smaller scale CCTV system in place, and it started to have some technical issues, maybe age, whatever involved in that. So it's been a process where we went out to tender on it, and we accepted what we thought was the most appropriate bid for the time, and we implemented it. I took the opportunity to go to ComOps yesterday to view the system. There are 147 of the 150 cameras working. There are 3 still to be installed. Actually, there are a couple more that we've added on to it. As we put up the system, we found out that there were a couple of other areas that we wish to have cameras in. I'll talk more about those in the coming days. There's 19 license plate cameras as well, and so I took the opportunity with Senator Barron to visit ComOps yesterday, see the system in action, get a better understanding of how it can work, the maintenance of it, talk to the operators about some of the tools it has, and I was very impressed. Most people will assume that they're operators, they're looking at the screens day in and night. That is correct. But we can do so much more than that. There can be real-time tracking of incidents as they happen. So because the room is adjacent to ComOps, ComOps can actually tune right into the system in their own area and see it on cameras in their own area and work on it. And the addition to that as well is the intelligence division now can also tune in and get information from it real time as they want. So I think it's a good tool. I'm delighted that I was able to give the statement today. This is just another commitment to making Bermuda safer for all of us and our visitors.
And we'll be back with more news right after this.
The Marketplace Food Court is you and your family's one-stop shop. Start your day at the Breakfast Bar with omelets made to order and traditional Bermuda codfish breakfast. The chefs will cook lunch and dinner to your liking. Along with the salad bar, sandwich bar, sushi bar, and fruit bar, the Marketplace Food Court is your kitchen away from home. Every day is hassle-free with nutritious meals from the Marketplace Food Court. Visit us 7 days a week. Homemade cooking, quality service, all at prices you can count on.
A plan to have women aged between 50 and 74 restricted to a mammograph test every 2 years has met with immediate opposition from the floor of Parliament. Health Minister Jeannie Atherton said the proposal, which was open to consultation, followed a recommendation of the U.S. task force and was designed to make better use of the scarce health care resources.
Recently, there have been some clinical guidelines which have suggested that for persons who are between 50 and 75, it's better to screen them. And remember, screening is different from having a test. If screening says that there's nothing that's been identified as you having an issue, and therefore go in and have it done as a preventative measure. Now, so from this perspective, if someone has a history, has some concerns, you can still have the referral from your doctor, and if it's referred from your doctor, it'll still be covered under standard hospital benefit, standard health benefit. But the one thing I think that, and I say in all of this, is that the guidelines reminded us all that it's important for us as patients to understand things relating to our health, to ask the questions of our doctor, to make sure that they understand our concerns and make recommendations to us that are appropriate. And so if you have a question, or you know that there's something in your family history, or you have a point, raise it with your physician, because the guidelines do not just deal with mammograms. The guidelines deal with things like prostate cancer and lots of other things. Going forward, if nothing else, people in Bermuda have to start saying, take ownership of your health, because some other things, healthy living, we're not going to have people turn around and get the obesity down. We're not going to turn around and have the high blood pressure if people don't start doing things themselves. We have to be preventative. Too much of this after the fact. We have to prevent, not cure.
Shadow Health Minister Kim Wilson said such a decision should be left up to the woman and her doctor.
The American Cancer Association also has not changed their guidelines, which suggests that recommend that women have a mammogram on an annual basis from the age of 40. So the question actually is, why the rush? Why is the government attempting to rush a particular recommendation from a U.S.-based task force that has not even been accepted by their own United States Congress? The absence, as I said previously, of a radiologist on the task force is certainly concerning.
You've got your eye on this one.
Absolutely, absolutely. I think it's also important to note, which was not written in the statement of the minister, is that the task force indicated that it's written on their recommendations, as well as there were some a session that was here recently concerning this. The task force has indicated that the issues concerning mammography should be an issue that should be determined between the patient and their physician. So the patient discusses with her physician whether or not a mammogram is necessary. The physician will discuss with the patient the risk and the benefits of same, and then ultimately the decision should be that of the patients. And the task force is making that recommendation. However, what you see that was tabled this morning from the government's ministerial statement, they're not suggesting that that recommendation of the task force be implemented, but rather that they implement the recommendation that says from 50 to 70 every 2 years. This is a matter of choice, and it's a decision that the woman should have with respect to her body and her health, and that decision should be made in conjunction with her physician. And I don't think that the government should be interfering with that particular decision.
Environment Minister Jeannie Atherton has explained to Parliament the reasons why her department has been putting down illegally bred dogs that are prohibited under law, rather than assisting their being shipped overseas once they have been detected.
The department has determined that it is simply impractical and unworkable to offer export of seized dogs for reasons that have grown out of past experiences. There are lessons learned in this area. Some of them include the illegal animal becoming a burden on the public purse, to feed, clean, care, and liability for injury for extended periods of time, which have lasted upwards of 8 weeks, while persons search for a new home to accept their animal. These expenses are caused by the offender's choice to acquire an illegal dog, yet are not recoverable from the offender. Prolonged kenneling of the dog is stressful and unfair to the animal, especially for the protected periods of time owners have taken to act. The department becomes the culprit when forced to bring these matters to a close after several weeks. Owners have become demanding upon the department to feed special diets or to accommodate visitations, all based upon the owner's wishes. Seized animals have been the subject of numerous break-ins and attempted break-ins at our kennel facility. Even when break-ins were unsuccessful, the building was left in need of expensive repairs. These events raise concerns about the safety of our officers. There is a responsibility, perhaps liability, upon government to ensure that the animal being exported poses little or no reasonable risk to those receiving it. That is a responsibility we cannot take lightly, and a responsibility that cannot be satisfied with a simple temperamental test. Mr. Speaker, the animal wardens have an enforcement function. Once an illegal dog is discovered, wardens must enforce the law. Seizure must occur. This government understands that it is an emotive issue and some people favor the export of illegal dogs, but it must be recognized that this option is burdensome and in many aspects, as I indicated earlier. Mr. Speaker, for the reasons I've outlined and pending any changes recommended by the advisory committee, the existing policy remains in force and will be applied as sensitively and fairly as possible.
And now we'll turn to Earl Blaisdon with the latest from the sports desk.
Bermuda went down 3-0 in their World Cup warm-up match against Mexico's under-23 team in Mexico. The match got underway earlier today with both teams very technical at the start. Mexico created the first real chance, crafting a lovely move down the left side of Bermuda's defense, a cross from the Mexican striker, who was wide open, but his header was calmly saved by Dale Eve. Minutes later, Roger Lee made a great sliding tackle to dispose the Mexican attacker. However, the ball fell to another Mexican player who hit a ball first time, only to see a shot go over the bar. Angelo Simmons was fouled from behind minutes later, and the ensuing free kick hit the Mexico wall and went out for a corner. From the ensuing corner came Bermuda's first chance with Zico Lewis' cross, headed by Tyrell Burgess, only to see it just go wide of the mark. The referee brought the half to an end with the score level at 3-0. As expected, coach Andrew Bascom made several changes to start the second half, and it was Mexico's under-23 team that went ahead early in the second half as a ball was squared into the box, and the striker made no mistake from 15 yards, beating Freddie Hall. Minutes later, a mistake in the midfield left the Bermuda defense exposed, and Mexico's under-23 national team capitalized on it to make it 2-0. A simple tap-in late in the match gave Mexico's under-23 national team a 3-0 win over Bermuda.
Bermudian sailors received a sneak preview of the America's Cup Community Sailing Program yesterday, with the first building blocks of the program, 8 hobby wave catamarans, arriving on the island earlier this week. The opportunity to test sail the boats with 14 youth sailors was too good to pass. America's Cup sailors Jimmy Spithill, Tom Slingsby, Room Kirby, and Andrew Campbell from Orco Team USA were joined by newly appointed SoftBank Team Japan skipper Dean Barker, all of whom served as crew on the hobby waves, with the youth sailors handling the skipper duties. Double Olympic gold medalist Shirley Robertson, the host of CNN Mainsail television program, took out another boat, as did 5-time America's Cup winner Russell Coots. The defending NetWest Island Games basketball champions, Bermuda, are currently struggling to have their strongest team represent the country, not only at the Games, but also at the upcoming Olympic qualifying tournament. The Bermuda national basketball team are set to play in the Caribbean Basketball Championships, which serves as an Olympic qualifier, and then they will head to Jersey to defend their title and look for another gold medal. But co-captain Stephen Simons has some concerns.
So one of the major challenges is we have an aging team. We've been together for quite a while, some of the core group, but we are getting old. Myself, Sullivan Phillips, Dean Jones, Chris Crumpler, Jason Lowe, we're all over 30. But we do have some youth coming in this time, which is nice to see. We have Tajor Riley, who's a young up-and-coming player, Kieran Burgess, and we also have a 14-year-old joining us for our Island Games in Rye Aronson, which is nice to see. But obviously some of the challenges is guys' commitment to the cause. We have family commitments, work commitments, raising money, because all of these expenses are fully paid by ourselves. So getting the team together, both mentally, physically, and then having that financial aspect hanging over our head is definitely a challenge.
And that's where you guys are lacking at this time, the financial struggles of individuals possibly not being able to make the final cut because of the financial challenge?
Yes, definitely. Particularly some of our college students, some of the younger ones I mentioned. If you can imagine coming home from college, you're selected to represent your country, and then you're told, but we need $3,500 by next week. It's unfair. We have done some fundraisers. We have reached out to the local community on numerous occasions, and we have got some support, but we need some more to help these guys kind of, realize their dreams.
You're 3-time defending champions of the Island Games. Just missed out on the CBC. What do you know about the opponents that you'll face at the CBC? Because I know you're well versed at the opponents you'll meet in the Island Games, but the CBC is the one that you really want to get to that next round for.
Definitely. Well, I know our first opponent is what we're really focused on, is Bahamas. In our first venture, they beat us pretty badly. We had a bad first quarter. And then I think we kind of played them evenly, but they ended up beating us by about 20 or so in that first game in 2011. They're also our first game this time around. They're defending champs, so it gives us a chance to kind of make a statement of our own, set our goals pretty high, and then kind of set the tone for the rest of the tournament. Bahamas is a very tough team. We also have Guyana in our group, which we went to a training camp in Guyana a couple of months ago. So we know them very well. We have Antigua in our group. And then obviously a couple of teams out there that we'd have to actually beat to get into the medal rounds is teams like Jamaica and then U.S. Virgin Islands would probably be one of the favorites.
Goals from Denny Primera, Cardell Benbow, and Ken Tribbett earned Dante Levrock and his USL Harrisburg City Islanders teammates a 3-0 win over Reading United FC in their Lamont Hunt USA Open Cup second round match. And then there was one. FIFA president candidates Luis Figal has joined Michael Van Praag in withdrawing from the FIFA presidential election, which will take place and be overseen by Bermuda Football Association President Larry Musselin on May 29th. The Bermuda Netball Association Summer League season continued with a doubleheader at Bernard Park last evening with 62 goals scored. Family defeated Squad 2 15-10. Rose Sanders scored 8 goals and Nakia Webb added 7 goals for Families, while Kamala Nadir scored 5 goals for Squad 2. Jadesha Swan scored 3 times. Maya Sanders scored twice. BAC defeated BPSU 27-10. Zane Hunt led the way for BAC with 11 goals, while Derica Simon scored 7 goals. Kirsten Salter scored 6 times, and Nikita Trott scored 3. Jamaica Tolbert scored 6 goals for BPSU, while Alex Doling scored 4 times. Patrick Nisbet continued competing at the Royal Windsor International Horse Show in the UK, competing in the Kingdom of Bahrain Stakes for the King's Cup 1.60 meter international horse jumping competition with a jump-off class. Nisbet and Quick Z finished 26th, clocking a time of 78.08, but they had 12 penalty fault points. Nisbet and Farah Van Catchlop finished 6th, clocking a time of 43.95, but they had 4 penalty faults while competing in the Falcon Stakes 1.55 meter international jumping competition class. I'm Earl Basden reporting for VSB Sports.
Looking at the weather for Saturday, May the 23rd, there will be sunny breaks with a few morning showers. Winds will be north-northeasterly during the afternoon. We're expecting a high near 75 and a low near 68. For Monday, May the 25th, and all its festivities, it will be mostly sunny with winds northeasterly and moderate. We anticipate a high near 76 and a low near 69. The weather forecast is courtesy of the Bermuda Weather Service. Thank you for watching Vsb News Online for Friday, May the 22nd. I'm Charles Webb, wishing you a glorious Bermuda Day holiday weekend, and don't drink and drive.